gentlemen, welcome to another Outside the Box review. Today we are looking at the NECA Iron Maiden Killers album cover based Eddie. Eddie is the mascot of Iron Maiden, and this depiction is based off their second album, which was put out, I believe, in 1981. Classic album, though I am inclined to say that about like the first 5 Iron Maiden albums, so take that with a grain of salt, but it is definitely, if you are a heavy metal fan, it is required listening, I think. And I was so excited to hear that NECA was picking back up doing the Iron Maiden figures. They did a few in the past that I only ever had one of them, which was the Live After Death. I'll get around to reviewing him at some point. It was decent, but it really was a statue. And knowing that NECA has stepped up their game with all their other figures articulation, I knew that they weren't going to do Iron Maiden without putting that extra touch in there. And I am not disappointed. This is freaking awesome, and it is a heavy metal fan's dream to get a figure like this. And I can't wait. They're doing some more of the albums. They're doing the self-titled debut album and also the Final Frontier. I'll definitely be picking up both of those because, preview to my end of this figure is awesome. And this is not the first time Eddie has been done from the Killers album. I believe McFarlane did one a long time ago. I actually had an opportunity to buy it once, and I passed without even looking at the price. I really do regret that. That was kind of before I collected action figures. This one looks very different from the McFarlane one, if I remember correctly. The McFarlane Eddie kind of did what they do with, even NECA does with a lot of their figures, is you take the source material and you try to see through the filters and things around it. Obviously with this album cover, it's a very kind of almost a grayscale with a yellow light and then the blood red. And McFarlane tried to go the opposite direction and be like, okay, well, what color was his t-shirt really? The jeans are going to be the color of jeans. The skin's going to be more decayed flesh looking. I much prefer this version that NECA's done here, where they've taken the stylized colors from the album cover and just replicated them thoroughly. We'll take a look real quick at the standee it comes with. From what you're seeing on the screen right now is about what you can actually see in the album cover itself. So from about the mid-waist up, you would see Eddie, and that works pretty well. They went on to do additional detail down here. Judging by the way this looks, I assume there was a print that encompassed all of this. This is the first time I'd ever seen this, but I'm assuming they didn't make up this bottom part, that it is original artwork. And there's Ruskin Arms is where they played a lot of their early gigs. It's a really simple little stand, and it's like a cardboard folded over here, the little triangle that comes out. I'm almost inclined to put maybe like a penny and tape it to here or something, just to weigh down the back a bit, because it does seem to have a tendency to tilt forward. Well, at least where I am right now, with the air conditioning blowing on it, it keeps flipping forward. So maybe when I get it on display, it won't be necessary. Onto the figure himself, he is highly detailed and very, very well made. I am very impressed with what they've done. My biggest complaint about him is the axe here doesn't really sit in his hand too well until you get it into the exact same position it was on the album cover. This back end here is a little thicker, and that's the only part that will really hold well in his hand. The rest of it's way too thin. And with his hand being kind of a softer, rubbery kind of plastic, he almost could have made it grip a little tighter, and he could have held the axe a little better. It's still well detailed. There's the blood on the end of it. The yellow and brown and black color palette works well for it. To some degree, I almost would have preferred if they'd had a little drip of blood coming off the axe just to really replicate the album cover. But it's a minor complaint, and I can understand totally why they wouldn't do that. Articulation on this figure is really impressive. The head is on a ball joint, and you get a really good range of motion. The hair is a soft rubber, so you really can just totally go with it and turn it whatever way you want this figure to be posed. Great amounts of up and down. The face sculpt is incredible. I love it, I love it, I love it. I can't say enough about how much I like the sculpt on here. And the hair is really well done too. As I showed you before, they're soft rubber, but just the detail in it, the kind of rocker mullet going on. It's Eddie. I mean, it feels like he could just walk across the stage at a show, head banging, and be awesome. Keep going with articulation. The arms can spin a full 360 up here, and they can go out, though it is highly limited. I don't want to push it too far if you're breaking it. It really doesn't have a whole lot of range. This arm goes a little better. The shirt here is a soft rubber as well, and I'm thinking that maybe it's just not lined up right over here, that maybe I could kind of peel off the shirt a little bit, or peel up the shirt a little bit, or do something to get this arm to go up more. Because this one definitely kind of fits into the socket over here. So maybe it's just something I'll figure out how to accomplish over time. The arms also swivel at the upper arm, right where it comes out of the sleeve. He has the wonderful, wonderful, wonderful bend and swivel elbows. I just love these are on all of NECA's figures now. Gives you so much more range. It's just awesome. Also, you can rotate the wrist. I just can't get over the arm joints. I just keep thinking, I have him posed like this, where he kind of looks at the album cover, and I almost forget that you can bend that elbow. I was like, oh, it's just a shame that arm's stuck like that. But it's not. It's not like the old figures. You get the full range there. In his mid-chest up here, he has a ball joint, so he can do kind of an ab crunch. And he can rotate, but he also has a cut waist. So you're more likely to start rotating that than to get him at the ball joint. And then down here, he has ball jointed feet. And once again, have to comment on the detail. The sneakers are so cool. I really like them. Just a nice touch, a nice detail. Everything on this figure just feels right. The coloring feels at least album accurate, if not realistically accurate. Even back here you can see the blue jeans and the shadows. And the shirt comes out. I mean, you could see it peeling away from the skin here. On the album cover, there were hands tugging at it. So we actually get that effect here. Obviously, we didn't get the victim on the ground to be pulling at his shirt. But at least it's going the same direction. But it still looks fine without anything pulling it. I mean, it just could be windswept or whatever. The skin just has wonderful detail in it. Has a nice decomposed look. The smile is just perfectly spot on, that haunting smile that Eddie has. And I just can't say enough good things about this figure. I am so glad I picked it up. I am so glad that NECA is working on these. And if you can't tell by now, I give this thing the highest of recommends, especially if you're an Iron Maiden fan. I guess if you weren't an Iron Maiden fan, there's not too big of a chance you'd want this. I mean, it could be a zombie figure, but there's plenty of other zombies on the market to go for. But if you are an Iron Maiden fan, you want this in your collection. It just looks so cool. Having seen what NECA did with this, I could say I'm a little less excited about the self-titled cover design, because it's a much more, I mean, I hate to say it, but it's more amateurish looking design, the drawing. I didn't really care for the art style quite as much. It's the same artist who had originally drawn those covers, but the first one was much more raw, and I mean, it was kind of more punk looking. Even though I love it as an album cover, I don't know how great I'm going to love it as a figure just on concept alone. The Final Frontier Eddie looks phenomenal, even though that album wasn't my favorite. Definitely looking forward to that one. But I'd really like to see NECA tackle, well, the Trooper, another one that McFarlane did, but I'd love to see NECA's take on it. And even a number of the Beast. I know it's very similar to this design, which would probably be good for them. They could reuse the parts, but that is more of a well-lit Eddie. It's kind of become the super classic version of Eddie. It's one of their most famous albums. You could give him like an alternate hand with the marionette of the devil with the marionette of Eddie and the puppet master thing going on. I think that would be really cool to see with some good articulation. Beyond that, the album covers are kind of take it or leave it. I mean, Power Slave would be kind of cool with the Mummy, and there's so many to pick from that would be neat. But definitely, I think those two, ones that I don't think they've done. Maybe NECA have done a Trooper. Now I can't remember now if it was McFarlane or NECA or both, but if anything else, it stands for a redo. I mean, seriously, with this kind of articulation, this kind of quality, and the price some of the Iron Maiden figures demand in the secondary market, I think it'd be worth a redo of the Trooper if they have done it already. Okay, so before I go on another 20 minutes of gushing about how much I love Iron Maiden, how much I love this figure, I'm just going to call it quits and stop rambling. So this has been another Outside the Box review, and if you don't pick up this figure, Iron Maiden's gonna get you.